to find an open classroom to take me in as I was in the hallways when this alert happened was something that I will never forget in my life. And when I entered that room, a discovery that no one ever wants to make when they're hiding from an active shooter was made that day. The doors inside Bellamy refused to lock. There was no mechanism within the classroom that would allow a professor to lock a door in a situation as harrowing as this. We as students were forced to barricade the doors from the inside, and in my case, our door was lucky because it opened inwards. But in many cases across Bellamy, the doors opened outwards and the barricades would be rendered useless. The fact that the doors didn't lock and that some doors opened outwards, which in effect ruins the purpose of barricades, should not have ever been an issue at Florida State. We needed those locks on our doors. We needed our students to be safe, and in that time of need, our students could not feel safe. I don't ever want to have to enter a classroom in a situation like that again and have to know that the locks inside our doors are not managed by our professors, even in times of school shootings. And I ask that all of you take a second and advocate for the universities across Florida and across America that will face those types of issues and advocate for door locks inside the university classrooms. I'd now like to introduce Madeline Probst, my dear friend, who is also in this event.
Hello everyone, my name is Madeline Probst. I am a freshman at Florida State University, and I am from Orlando, Florida, very proudly. There is no doubt in my mind that this tragedy was both senseless and preventable. And although it is not a political issue when a mass tragedy happens, it becomes political when it is enabled by poor policy. Because of a lack of proactive planning and poor policy at the hand of our legislators, there are 2 people who are dead who shouldn't be, 6 people in the hospital who shouldn't be, thousands of students who no longer feel safe on campus, and a community that is still reeling from a senseless act of violence, and no amount of thoughts and prayers is going to fix that. We are asking that Florida State put locks on the doors, and that we have trainings for professors and TAs on how to respond to an active shooter situation, because in a state where gun violence is as normalized as it is in the state of Florida, there is no reason why our doors do not lock and why our professors do not know how to respond when there is someone with a gun less than 100 feet away. We are asking that the legislature put appropriations towards mental health intervention and advocacy services and appropriations towards these trainings so that they can be provided on all college campuses. The person who decided to commit this act of violence was not mentally well. No mentally healthy person shoots up a school. And there is no doubt in my mind that there could have been steps taken, some sort of red flag, some sort of intervention could have been taken to stop this before it got to this point. And regardless of where the blame lies, there wasn't. He was allowed to continue on about his time at Florida State after years of hateful rhetoric and years of what should have been red flags. And because no one said anything and no one did anything, on Thursday 2 people died and my friends ran for their lives. We're asking that federally Congress make moves to reinstate the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, which worked on policy research and different resources for survivors, because if that office had existed, then maybe, just maybe, there could have been some sort of policy pushed through at the federal or the local level in order to stop this before it occurred, because at the end of the day, poor policy enabled this tragedy. And we are asking that next legislative session, we move to amend safe storage laws that require safe storage of all loaded weapons if there is a minor under 16 in the household, to have the requirements apply to any household that has any person who cannot legally obtain a firearm on their own. The time for thoughts and prayers has passed. It is time for policy and change, because while thoughts and prayers can put Band-Aids over a bullet wound, they will do nothing to stop the next bullet from shooting. I am here to ask if this is not what it takes to get more policy? Were 2 people dead not enough? And how many lives would it have taken in order for better policy to be taken? How many people had to be shot in order for you to take this seriously? And how many people had to be injured before we can see any real change in this country? And with that, I would like to give the podium back to Leader Driscoll. Thank you.
We'll get you the spellings after. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you, students. For some reason, shootings like this are the only crisis in America where we do not solve the problem. No one says now isn't the time after other disasters. Hurricanes, airplane crashes, economic collapse, wildfires, any other crime. Every one of those deserves and receives an immediate response. They receive action. But shooting after shooting, we're told to wait. And all we hear are thoughts and prayers. And I'm sensitive to not politicizing an issue, but year after year, we file good, common sense bills to help make our communities safer. And unfortunately, they don't even get a committee hearing. And it doesn't matter if the latest mass shooting was a week ago or a year ago or 3 years ago, it never seems to be the time to talk about gun violence. I have no illusions about the political realities here in Tallahassee. My party's in the minority, but we were also in the minority when the legislature passed transformative legislation to try to keep communities safe after the massacre in Parkland. So I know we can work together to find common ground. We can find solutions that protect both our Second Amendment rights and our neighbors, and of course, that protect our young people. The first step, we need to stop going in the wrong direction. We need to stop going in the wrong direction. This legislature can stop passing bills that make us less safe. We can say no to undoing the good bipartisan law passed after 17 people were killed in Parkland. It was a success, and it has helped to keep Florida safer. We'll never know how many lives it saved. Then we can take a serious look at ideas that can help make our communities safer while not infringing on our Second Amendment rights. Ideas like the ones we heard here today from these FSU students. And at this time, we can open it for questions.
So most of us were in Bellamy, and in the terms of external locks, it takes about roughly 20 minutes for the external lock to actually lock, and in most cases the external locks will only lock past 8 p.m. So when the alarm went off, the 3 blares, and then the announcement of the school shooter, none of the doors within Bellamy automatically locked, and the professors could not lock them from the inside, which was a gross policy oversight. I have personally not received anything, but I'm sure President McCullough has reached out.
Thanks. Yeah, I can tell you that my office has been in touch with FSU about this, trying to get additional information and seeing how we can partner with them to get them some reform and perhaps some resources if they need that.
Can I ask Andre a question?
Andres, yes.
Yeah. You testified in a House committee hearing about the minimum age restriction on rifles. Could you talk a little bit about that experience? Do you think your concerns were heard?
Clearly not. The committee went on to vote favorably for lowering the age limit to 18. Since then, it has since passed in the House. I don't know how many more tragedies it's going to take for people to wake up and realize this is a real problem. And if they can hear me now, I hope they can hear me saying, please, please, plead with us. Thank you.
For Madeline.
Madeline?
Thank you so much. In your words, you asked for more laws, more restrictions. But quite contrary to that, the House passed lowering the age to buy long rifles to 18. And the part of the budget has what the governor calls the Second Amendment summer. of no taxes on the purchase of weapons and ammunition. And carrying guns on campus did die in committee, so that's not moving forward. But the other two are. So what is your reaction to the fact that instead of more gun bills, you're actually rolling back on what's already in place?
I'm disgusted with my legislature and the people that I know some of my friends and my family voted for. The fact that they are able to sit in this place and prioritize weapons over my life, my friends' lives, and the lives of my community around me is deplorable. I would also like to note that they are not here right now. And I think part of that is because they couldn't look us in the eyes and tell us that the guns are worth more than we are, because that is certainly what they are telling us in their legislation.
And so I wasn't here in 2018. I was elected in 2018, and 2019 was my first session, but I remember it very clearly as I was running for office and in the political process then. And I think the only difference is that it seems like the governor is desensitized to this. I mean, we saw the comments from President Trump that to me was such a slap in the face to these students and to everyone in this community who's been impacted by this gun violence. And I think it just speaks to the fact that our priorities are just totally messed up. If we can't prioritize protecting our kids, if that can't be our number one priority, and I'm talking about actually protecting our kids, not just in name, not just calling something parental rights, but really undermining our young people, but I mean really protect them, really protect our communities with looking at some of the common sense gun reform that our community wants, like expansion of red flag laws, like safe storage, like universal background checks, then really what are we doing here? Seems to be a lot of positioning and partisan politics and nothing to keep our community safer.
Are you surprised the governor hasn't publicly addressed those outside of the video posted on social media on Thursday?
I wish I could say I was surprised, but I'm not. I guess more than anything, I'm just disappointed. The governor seems more concerned about protecting the reputation of Hope, Florida than he does about protecting the safety of our kids.
I have a question for the students. Have you all requested a meeting with the legislative leaders and the governor? Have you gotten any sort of response from them?
I have requested a few meetings, but almost immediately Leader Driscoll's team reached out to me. Like, genuinely, they've been amazing just to see what changes we could think of and putting this together so that we could share our stories. Just the leader and the House Democratic Office has been incredibly receptive to us and really focused on making sure that our voices are heard. Just yesterday, the leader welcomed in all of the FSU interns to speak to her, didn't invite press, and I think that really speaks to the fact that she is trying to help us and not her public image. And I have not had that same experience with Republican legislators, or the governor for that matter. And I think that can really just be summed up with the first thing that I heard from the HDO was a member of Fentress Driscoll's team checking up on me, seeing if I was okay, and then seeing if I had the capacity and the emotional bandwidth to think of solutions. And all that we've gotten from Governor DeSantis was a 2-minute video on Twitter and a response from the president of "these things do happen" while my friends were laying incapacitated in a hospital. Thank you.
Any? Well, particularly with respect to these bad gun bills, it's my hope that the Senate continues to act like the Senate and stop extremist legislation. So we know that the bill to lower the age for the purchase of long rifles or long guns and rifles, lowering that from 21 to 18 passed off the floor of the House, but I'm hopeful that it will not go any further in the Senate. And I'm also hopeful that the Senate is watching what happened with the bill that would repeal a prohibition on purchases of ammunition during states of emergency, and also make sure that that bill does not continue. You know, we're facing real crises in our state. We're facing a crisis of safety. We're facing a crisis of property insurance. We're facing a crisis of affordability. Nearly 40% of our children are on Medicaid. We have some real issues that we must get down to business and address those. And I hope that that can become the focus of our legislative session going forward.
And for the students, why do you think the reaction so far from lawmakers has been different for this shooting compared to the
You don't have to. You can. Okay. During the Parkland shooting, 17 people passed, and we were in much more of a swing state territory. Coming off of the 24 election, we are seeing gun bills that are so radical, so on the radical right, that they are getting killed in the reddest supermajority that this state has seen in quite some time. I think that the reason that we're not seeing as big of an outcry, because this is about as close to home as you can get to legislators. The shooting happened about a mile away from where we're standing right now. There is no shame in bad gun legislation anymore. These people campaigned on the Second Amendment. They campaigned on lowering restrictions on guns. And they know what happens when you lower restrictions on guns. They know what happens when you make it easier for young people and people who are mentally ill to have guns, and that is the type of legislation that they have been trying to pass. Part of me hopes that the reason that they're not out here right now is because they're ashamed to have even thought to have open campus carry and to lower the gun age after this mass tragedy has just happened. But the more rational part of me has to assume that because it will not affect their donors, it will not affect their votes, that they simply do not care. Because at the end of the day, the people that they are targeting for re-election campaigns and higher office campaigns in 2026 are not the people standing behind me who are affected by these senseless acts of violence. They are going after people who prioritize their guns over my life. Thank you.
May I ask of the group, including you, leader, what should be the top priority right now? Lowering or making it more difficult to get access to guns, stricter regulations, or a focus on mental health intervention?
I think both. I don't think it's a choice that we have to make one over the other. I mean, I think three things, right? The first is stop the bad legislation from progressing. Like we need to stop what's been happening in reverse course and make sure that the bill that lowers the purchase age from 21 to 18 for long guns does not go any further. Second, yes, investment in mental health resources, which is what we just heard from the students at FSU, is that there needs to be additional assistance and pathways for folks who may be going through a troubling time, just may have whatever personal imbalances, whatever it is, that they get the resources and the help that they need. And then the third thing is, I think the legislature needs to be where the people are at, because this is a legislature, frankly, that ignores the overwhelming majority of the population that wants universal background checks. There's a super majority of Americans, if you want to put it that way, nearly 90% or so, that want to see universal background checks. People want safe storage laws. In a country where gun violence is one of the leading causes of deaths of Americans, and particularly for our young people, surely we can start at the common ground, common sense solutions and move forward there. So I think those should be the priorities in addition to school hardening. I mean, we've been through this before. We've been through this drill before. We know how important school hardening is to keeping our young people and the faculty and the staff safe. And so we need to have that conversation and make sure that our universities are getting what they need.
Thank you all. We're out of time.
Okay.
If you have any further questions, come on up. But we're out of time here for the
just really quickly, I did want to acknowledge, the presence of some of my colleagues who I know are very busy, members of the House who stopped by, and then also Congressman Darren Soto. Thank you so much for traveling to be here with us today. We appreciate it. Thank you. You can come get that.